Welcome to the V-Cast, a Vendux podcast titled The Next Stage CEO. Today I'm joined by Jamie Crosbie, founder and CEO of ProActivate, based in Dallas. ProActivate is a talent acquisition firm that has specialized for 20 plus years in hiring sales and marketing professionals, entry level all the way to executive. Jamie started her career as a VP of sales at CareerBuilder before founding ProActivate in 2005. She's also a keynote speaker and an author, and she built the firm as a single mom into a roughly 20-person team driven largely by referral partnerships. Jamie, welcome to the V-Cast.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here with you.
My pleasure as well. And since we're both in the recruiting and people space, it's especially interesting to hear your story of how you build ProActivate. You spend years in sales leadership, which is also a commonality between you and I. What made you leave and start ProActivate in 2005?
I always knew I wanted to start my own business. So it was truly very intentional to work for entrepreneurial organizations to get the experience of working in all areas of the business. And I really had an idea, just based on my experience starting my career in the traditional staffing industry, and then serving as vice president of sales at CareerBuilder and vice president of training and development. I just realized there was truly a gap in the market for leaders of sales and marketing organizations to be able to protect and propel their revenue proactively. And so I thought now's the time. I actually was taking an MBA-class where we had to write a business plan for a business. And so I wrote the plan for ProActivate. I won in the business plan contest, and I thought, now's the time. I was like, I'm going to have kids eventually. I don't want to be traveling like crazy because I was gone 80% of the time. So I better get this going now before I have kids and, do the really hard work of the initial several years prior to that, and then thought it's time to go for it.
Yeah, certainly winning the contest in your MBA class, that's a sign that you should actually pursue that as opposed to shelving it.
Yes, I thought of it the same way. I thought now's the time. Yeah. Why wait?
How do you describe the core problem that you're solving for your clients?
Well, I would say it's really to protect the revenue. It's almost like revenue insurance. So to help with the problem of finding elite talent for market growth, or to replace C players with A players, and just to proactively be prepared. I would say it's really solving the revenue problem of missing out on opportunity cost and revenue because you're lacking A players.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's holding on to poor performers too long or just not having the right people to build and grow.
Mm-hmm. So when you started out, obviously you were by yourself. It was you. What did the business plan tell you to do in the first year?
I actually wasn't fully by myself because I had pretty good confidence that I would sell some partnerships very early on. So I had a talent manager ready and prepared because I really was never, the one recruiting the talent. But I did have a business plan, and I remember the first day, January 5th, 2005, when I was just getting started, and I was walking around my house I had a mirror in my dining room, and I was making calls. I thought, okay, I don't have any appointments yet because this is the first day. So every day I'm going to set 5 appointments. By the end of this first week, I'm going to have 25 to 30 appointments scheduled. And I did. And, I was targeting VPs of sales, CEOs, CMOs, CROs, people that really feel the brunt of not having the revenue goals met because they're not the right people in the seats. So I knew I had to get out there and turn on the lights in the marketplace, so to speak. And over the course of that year, I'm guessing, I mean, it's been a while and I'm a little older now, so I might not be exact, but we probably had to add like 5 people internally just to support the growth and, the client needs in terms of finding the elite talent. Because we're looking for people working and winning, where this would be a next step to their career. We're not doing the post and pray method. So, yeah.
You told me in our pre-conversation that you ran ProActivate like a larger company right from the start. What does that mean, or what did that mean to you? What were the things that you did that others in your position wouldn't have done right away?
I think a lot of times we wait to get things in place and have the right sales processes or just employee development process and just every piece of the organization until it grows. But I had a sales boot camp book of our entire sales process written out before day one. I had our talent acquisition strategy in terms of what do we do when we get the client? How do we go to market? What is our implementation process of a new client? What are our collection procedures? I mean, everything from finance, HR, sales, marketing, operations. We had process handbooks, and it was spelled out so that we really were intentional about our plans and our growth. And when we brought people on board, how to develop them and onboard them quickly. And then also I just thought big, at CareerBuilder, it was fun. We had an annual trip where we would celebrate and recognize people. So I did that within the first few years. I remember taking about 10 people on a celebration trip and, having recognition plans in place. And I definitely did not ever run it like a solopreneur, and I really never was one.
Yeah. Now, you were a VP of sales prior to starting your own business. How much do you think did it help you, the fact that you had sold before and you were comfortable in front of clients versus maybe going at this and starting a business as a recruiter who's never really been out there selling? How much did being a VP of sales or having been a VP of sales help you?
I think it helped me tremendously for a couple of reasons, but then I'll tell you a secret. It helped me tremendously in that CareerBuilder, like I said, was very entrepreneurial, and I was involved in all aspects of the business. So we definitely had autonomy to run the business. And whether that be HR, sales, marketing, whatever it was, I really was engrossed in it. So that was tremendously beneficial. And I think too, the best sales training I ever had was at CareerBuilder. And yes, I eventually wrote the sales training and that type of thing, but I was around really great people. The CEO and my leader were just tremendously impactful, and I learned so much from them. And I would say it was truly the most consultative sales process that I was around, because traditional staffing industry, which our model is not following, but it was very much more so like order taking than actually consultative sales. No one was agreeing to buy anything. It was like if you find someone kind of thing. And so I learned value-based, consultative selling there. Now, the secret is that I never, ever had a quota ever in my career, except for the collective quota as a sales leader. So I never was an individual contributor. I don't know how. My mom was a VP of sales and a speaker, so maybe I just came by it, just by osmosis. But when I was in the traditional staffing industry, I started in recruiting, and I remember growing and having them approach me and say they wanted me to lead the sales team because the salespeople would come ask me for my opinion often, and I helped them and coached them, but I never personally was in the role. And even at CareerBuilder, I started as the regional sales leader for Dallas and moved to VP of sales after I took that office that was not doing well to #1 in the country. Mm-hmm. So yes, I knew I was very comfortable being in front of customers with my team members or the leaders and things like that. But certainly I hadn't carried a quota myself other than the collective quota.
You mentioned earlier that the first week, you set out by making calls and trying to get appointments. But I think you also mentioned that your growth is really heavily driven by referral partnerships.
Well, that's later. In all fairness, today it's definitely more referral partnerships over the last 10 years. But the first 10, it was go to market, or the first 5 at least. I certainly had to make all of that happen, and I wasn't calling on past clients or getting, deals from people that I had worked with before at CareerBuilder. It was very different because I had geography all over the country at CareerBuilder, whereas I was really trying to turn the lights on in Dallas because that was my backyard and I wanted live meetings. People weren't doing Zoom as much at that point.
Yeah. Then let's talk about those referral partnerships, since that's what's driving the business today. How did you build that engine that you have to put in place? And how do you foster those relationships that they stay warm and current?
That's a great question. I think part of it happened organically, and then part of it was very intentional. Once I could see how the organic piece was growing and how successful it was, then it became more and more intentional. It happened, I would say, for people listening where they think, okay, I want to emulate that.
Yeah.
The organic piece and somewhat intentional piece is thinking of who has a similar ideal client profile and, capturing those people and creating referral partnerships together. I found some fractional sales leader groups, and I maybe worked with 1 out of 200 of those fractional leaders within that umbrella. And they really saw how our model was unique and really didn't like the traditional model of candidates being coached on what to say to get the job, or having to pay a high fee when you're desperate, or just a very cursory, quick qualification and slapping resumes. And so some of those challenges were overcome with our model. And organically, as I worked with maybe someone at this sales training company or this fractional sales company and realized there are so many more of that person, they would introduce me within their organizations. And eventually then, corporate wanted to be more involved. Like, wait a minute, they're doing a revenue share here, and my people are really finding value here. How do we get involved? So over time, we have both larger channel partners, like maybe a sales training company or staffing companies, because most of them don't do sales and don't, sales is hard, as you know, because salespeople are selling themselves in the interview process. So you have to have a much more in-depth qualification process. So we just strategically thought of, okay, there are independent people like that are out in the market on their own. We'd be a great resource for them. And then there are big groups where they have, 200 training franchises for as an example. And we might have started organically working with a handful and then intentionally targeted the others. And over time, we realized, oh my gosh, so much of our business is coming from referrals. This is amazing. It's like having a whole nother sales team out there.
Yeah. Thank you for spilling the secret sauce, or sharing the secret sauce here. I can wholeheartedly agree that those partnerships are key for our business as well. From a client perspective, who are you targeting? Who is your ICP from a client perspective? Size, industry, location?
So we work globally, and we are, I would say, really focused on, well, we are industry agnostics, and but our specialization is that we're focused on go-to-market talent, which is really hard to find. So talent that represents revenue growth, sales, marketing, sales operations, sales enablement, client services, all the way up to, like you said, CRO, COO, CEO, that type of thing. Now, I say we're industry agnostic because really where we specialize is that. But our talent managers are verticalized by industry. So when we pair up a new client, they are going to have a talent manager who has experience in their industry, which is really nice. We have great examples of clients we've helped across all industries, but they will have an expert, someone who really understands. So they get both the expertise in the revenue generating space as well as industry experience, which is really nice. And I would say when business comes from a referral partner, our ICP may vary a bit, but for us, it would be like a mid-market organization that is growing or building a sales organization. We have a lot of name brand companies as well, like Southwest Airlines or things like that, that are household names. They're using us more for challenging positions or markets that are just really challenging. And then we have some really small organizations that they're hiring their first salesperson. And that may come from a referral or things like that. So, but when you ask ICP, as a sales expert, I think, okay, that's like, who are we targeting? And that mid-market who really doesn't have a dedicated human resource team. And even if they do, the truth is, it takes great salespeople to find great salespeople. HR is wonderful, but they're not necessarily proactively able to interview talent to protect revenue in the area of sales or go find people working and winning who are doing well, or this would be their next step of their career. They're more responsive to people coming to them, but it's hard to dedicate and have that time to go do that, especially unless they're dedicated to those types of roles. They're probably working on the roles of the entire organization and waiting until they're open. And as we know in sales, that means we're missing revenue.
What is your growth goal? Where do you want to see the organization, the company that you build in, let's say, 3 or 5 years?
So it's a great question. I have, as you mentioned, I started the company in 2005. I became a single mom in 2008. And so I've truly had an incredible opportunity to run a business, make an impact in the marketplace, and be a mom first. And I wouldn't say and, I would say, and first and foremost, be a mom. And so it's been somewhat of a lifestyle business, but with these big plans and business plans and this vision of something bigger. And so there's so much more growth opportunity. Now my son is a sophomore in college. My daughter will be a freshman. We have a lot of opportunity in the marketplace to grow and build it. So over the next few years, that's really where we're focused, and maybe 7 to 10, maybe selling or having something incredible to pass down to my children. So that's what I see, and that's what we're investing in.
Okay. AI is touching every part of business, every industry, every individual. How do you see AI reshaping recruiting? How is it reshaping what you're doing in your company?
For us, it's efficiency. It's not reshaping or replacing the in-depth qualification process, because that's very unique to our model. That is our secret sauce, is how in-depth we're qualifying people. And it's a behavioral interview. AI is not going to replace that, especially with salespeople. Now, if it was just very technical, that may be one thing. But I believe very strongly that 80% of our success is based on mindset and 20% is skill set. So maybe AI can do the initial screening on the skill set piece, but we have to have a very interactive interview process on the qualifications based on mindset components and simulation, seeing them in action and key components of the role. So for us, we're using it in terms of efficiency to get candidates perhaps in new and unique ways to pre-qualify them, to maybe write up candidate submittals more effectively and things like that. Certainly to target or get to people maybe that we may not have. And we've got an incredible network just of people after 20 plus years, of which we can do referral campaigns and things like that. So AI certainly helps us to do all of that more efficiently and effectively. Definitely not replacing the human aspect.
You mentioned earlier your goals, your growth goals, maybe towards a potential sale or exit of the business. Where are the bottlenecks that you're encountering today? Not the ones you encountered earlier on, but in order to get to that growth goal that you outlined yourself, what are the bottlenecks on the road to get there?
So I wouldn't say there really has been a bottleneck. I think it was a choice. It was a choice to be mom first, and just to really have both, to do both really well, to serve our clients well and have a business that's thriving. When I say a lifestyle business, I have 10 to 15 team members, maybe probably closer to 15 today. And certainly it's provided very well. I just know there's more potential. And I think it's been just resource. It's time, it's a choice. It's to pour into my kids was something I will never regret. I truly, when they were first born, I wanted them to think I was a stay-at-home mom, and I didn't even have a job. I finally decided to tell them I had my own business. I think they were like 8 and 9, and they were wondering what I was doing in the office, and telling them I was planning their birthday party was not working anymore. I was like, this is not serving them well. They need to know that we get to go on vacation and do these things because I actually am working, and you can do both. But I had a guilt complex about it. And so balancing both was a choice. And, I think that was, I wouldn't call it a bottleneck, but that's the reason I now have more bandwidth and intentionality about growth and expansion and building. So that's where we are.
Yeah. And now that you're 20 plus years into the journey, is there a piece of advice that you wish you had been given sooner?
That's so good. What would that be? I do think, and I think I knew this at some point, but I wish I knew it from the beginning, just hiring people better than you. And I will say, I've done this very well over the last 5+ years, but really learning not to be the selling CEO and to have every part of the business hinge on you, because you will have nothing valuable in the future if it's all resting on you. So I used to be 90% of the revenue. I'm probably 10% today. And that was an intentional choice. And I wish I knew that sooner. Yes. I have incredible leaders who have been with the company now for over 15 plus years. That's amazing. I don't know that I got lucky. I'm so grateful. I have incredible people, but intentionally doing that sooner and would have been even more valuable. So finding people better than you in the key areas you're not as good in, and having incredible people that you pour into that really treat it as if it were their own business. And I'm very, very proud of that. And then, yes, intentionally not having all the revenue and a lot all tied to you.
Jamie, thank you. A great, candid look at building and scaling a sales talent firm. Many things that I can learn for my own business. And you shared the decisions that every growth stage CEO faces, right? When do you do things yourself? When do you build systems? When do you bring in leaders? When do you bring in the talent that you just described that can bring in 90% of the revenue, that treats the business like it's their own? If listeners want to learn more about you or ProActivate, where should they go?
So LinkedIn, I would love to connect with anyone on LinkedIn, and Jamie Crosbie, and as well proactivate.net. And then for my speaking business, it's Jamie Crosbie with an IE.com.
Great. Thanks again for being on the VE-Cast, the Next Stage CEO.
It was such a pleasure, Henning. Thank you for having me.